Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Twisted Builds. Today I've got another customer's lawnmower. So we've got an old Craftsman GTS5000, and this one has got the big 26 horsepower V-twin Kohler in it, and it runs perfect except for it has the electronic PTO and it will not turn on. So I'm thinking either the PTO itself is bad, or the switch, or maybe the wiring in between. We're gonna find out. First thing I'm gonna do is pull the switch out for the PTO, and we are gonna test it. So to test it, get it unplugged. So to test it, we're going to use a ohms meter. So if you look behind me, I still got his golf cart in here. The guy, and this happens to be his lawnmower also that we're gonna try to fix. So I got my ohms meter right here. And basically what we're going to do is first we're going to test this switch for continuity. So you're going to set your ohms meter to continuity. And basically what that means is when you touch your probes together, you get a beep that tells you if there's a complete circuit. So we're going to take this switch and test it out and see what we got. Okay, so if you look on here, you've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pins, right? Now looking at this switch, it is pretty dirty, it is pretty nasty, and if you look on the side of it, this is your common side, and this is going to be your uncommon side, or your hot side. So this one doesn't do anything, but these two do. So we're gonna put the switch in the off or on position, and we're gonna test it first to see if we have continuity on any of these pins. So first off, straight across, nothing, nothing, and nothing. Now we're going to test it side to side. This one and this one, nope. This one, nope. This one and this one, nope. This one and this one, nope. So that should mean the only ones that have connection are the center row to the outside. Let's see if that's true. Come on. That one's good. So let's try this one. That one's good. Nothing on that one, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So let's check these. Nothing. And nothing. So let's go to the off position and see if we got anything. Yep. Yeah. Come on. Stay in there. No, no, and no. So I think the switch is good, but it could be bad still. Let's change it to ohms and see what kind of resistance we get. As long as there's no resistance between the pins, the switch is good. Hang on, my pin is coming out. Zero. Zero. And zero. So that's a good sign. Now we're going to switch to this. Let's see. Shouldn't have anything on the outside. It should read zeros. Now let's test the inside. Nothing. Well, if I could keep my thing on here. Nothing. And then we'll check this outside with the inside. Zero. Zero. And these shouldn't have. That is zero. So I think that means the switch is probably good, and we're going to move over to checking out the PTO and the wiring on the mower itself. Alright, so I've moved over to the mower and found the plug for the PTO, which comes up through the frame and plugs in right here. So next thing I want to do is I'm going to test the wires coming down to this PTO and see if we actually got any connection between it and our plug up here that our switch goes into. So same thing, you're going to stick one probe in here, take another one and go up here, and you got continuity there. So that means that that one and only that one is making contact. So we're going to switch to the next pin, come up here, and we got continuity to two of the pins. So that one and that one are your pins, and they are connected. So that means that our wiring is good. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to switch this back over to ohms, and I'm going to see if we ohm this, if it shows anything. So the PTO itself is showing good. There's no resistance, so we're good there. Let me switch this. Yep, no resistance. Zero. So that means that the PTO could possibly be good, or it could be bad. So what I'm going to do is switch. I'm going to put power to this switch, or to this plug I mean, and see if the PTO activates. You'll hear it click. If it clicks, then the PTO is more than likely good, and our problem would rely in maybe our plug up there to our switch isn't getting power from someplace. So what it does is it basically just it relays, you know, your ground and your positive, and it tells it, hey, it's time to turn this on. So we got to figure out what the issue is that's causing that to not turn on. So I'm going to grab a couple things and see, so we can do a little test in here and figure out if the PTO kicks in and out. If it does, then we've got another problem. Alright, so I got my makeshift battery set up here with just two pieces of wire ran to this plug, and if I touch it, we should hear it click. So that means It's definitely engaging, but it seems like it's having a little bit of a hard time. But it is engaging. So now, are we getting power to all the pins? That is the question. So let's disconnect this and this, and we're going to test these pins up here with the key on, see if we're getting power with our meter. So I'm going to turn the key on if I could reach it. Hang on. Oh. Turn the key on, and we've got the negative post over there. So I'm going to take my lead and I'm going to set this to volts, and I'm going to go over here and test this. So we got 12 volts there, and the rest of these, nothing. So 12 volts in. So we've got power. So we should only have one 12 volt in spot, and that's right there, or right here, sorry. So we got 12.68. So I am starting to lean towards that the switch is bad, even though it ohmed out good. I'm thinking that that might be our problem. Something I'm going to try, I'm going to clean the pins, and I'm going to just kind of blow this out, and we'll see what happens. Okay, I'm back out here working on this Craftsman. I think it is a GTS5000. I couldn't remember. So it's GTS5000, and it has gave me an absolute fit. He brought it to me because the PTO would not engage, and he could not figure out, it was intermittent. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And I tested everything in the start of the video, you seen that, and then I couldn't find anything that was wrong with it. So I did a bunch more testing and ended up, it wouldn't start. I could not figure out why it wouldn't start. It was brought to me running and driving, just no PTO. Well, come to find out, it had a short to ground somewhere, and I have yet to figure out exactly where, but it somehow backfed through that switch. I'm assuming the switch was bad for the PTO, because everything runs through that switch. And it somehow backfed 12 volts through a ground. So when it done that, it ended up frying one of the coils. So after a whole bunch of trying to figure out off camera what was going on, I ended up having to replace the passenger side coil, and it fired right up. Still have no PTO. So I ohmed, if you remember, we ohmed the PTO and we ohmed the switch, and both of them showed good. Obviously, they're not. So I got up underneath it here. I got it up in the air on the trusty old chain hoist there. And basically, I'm going to pull this PTO off, and we're going to go ahead and order a new one. I've already got a new switch, so we're going to replace the switch and we're going to replace the PTO. I got underneath here and I got the belt pulled off of it already, and that PTO is extremely hard to turn while it's not running. So to me, that means the brake on it is probably stuck, or it's sticking intermediately, and that is probably what has caused all of his problems. So we're going to get up underneath this thing and pull this PTO off and see if we can find a replacement for it. All right, so basically all you got to do, of course I have the luxury of this nice chain hoist. If you don't, you can get it from underneath. You just have to, you know, raise your front end up enough to get underneath it. I'm lazy and I don't like working on the ground. But all I did was I pulled this out of the deck. It's just a key. Just snap that out and you'll have a washer. Take that off. And then of course I just walk the belt off of it because that thing has a spring in it, so you got a little bit of play. So now I've got the PTO unplugged. Now we've got to get ourselves a socket to fit that bolt that goes into the crank and drop that PTO out of there. So let me find a socket and we'll try to zip her out of there. Is a 16 mil, and I'm just gonna throw it on the old impact here and buzz her off. You gotta be careful because this thing is a little heavy and she'll come right on out of there. So we'll try to hold it up and take his bolt out. This bolt is extremely long. Oh, and then I dropped it. Hell, it's out of there. But let's take a look at this thing. So looking at it, it is extremely hard to turn. You can hear the magnet in there. I would say that that is probably what's causing it to overload that switch and burn up. So let's see if I can find a part number for this thing or something that we can find a replacement for it. Everything else up in here looks pretty good. I don't see no damage to these wires. I was kind of worried that, you know, I have seen that, you know, somebody mowing and they hit a branch or something and it go up through the side of the mower and it rips one of these wires loose. But I don't see anything. But I'm gonna get this thing cleared off and cleaned up here and see if we can find a part number on it. If not, we might have to just go online and see if we can find a part number that's close, because I think they use these on Craftsman, Husqvarna, several different mowers takes this exact same PTO. I just want to make sure that we get the right one. A lot of times your big difference on them is your plugs. So I don't want to have to change a plug or anything like that. I just want it to bolt back in and good to go. So we'll get this thing cleaned up and then we'll see what we got. All right, this is the old PTO and it is 1793335 is your part number on this thing. I know it's hard to see that glare on it. Let's see if you can see it. There's your part number. Like I said, it's very hard to move, so it's telling me that I think it's locked up or the magnet's going bad. It is very packed full of dirt and stuff. So got online, did some searching, found a brand new one, got it ordered, and here it is. So let's pull this thing out of the box and see what we got. opened it upside down. It's all right. Ugh. All right. So this one is a 810, and it's a Gen 3, and it's supposed to be a direct replacement for this one. Comes with your instructions, and let's see. Certainly looks the same, but it's a whole lot smaller. Let's see what we got here. It's definitely size-wise, it's a little bit smaller than the original. Not much, but it is. The main thing is your centerpiece, as long as it's the same, and by that I mean your bore size, as long as it's the same and your plug's the same, we should be good to go. Let's see what the plug is here. Here's our plug. So that's the plug there, and that's the plug on that one. So they are definitely the same. You can tell. So let's go ahead and get this thing mounted back up in there and get it hooked up, put our switch back in it, and he's decided that he wants some more stuff done, of course. So he wanted me to sharpen his blades, and I got to looking at his blades, and they're pretty dang rough. So good old Amazon jumped on there, and this thing has a 54-inch deck, so it takes 3 blades. But I got on there and found him some medium lift blades for about 30 bucks, so can't really go wrong there. I could sharpen these, but they need a lot taken off of them. And when you take a lot off on a blade, I don't know if you know, but you're supposed to rebalance them so you don't get a horrible vibration. Well, I do have a lawnmower blade balancer somewhere, but I can't find it. So we're just gonna go ahead and throw him a new set on there, and I might try to do something with the old ones and give them to him and see if he wants to, you know, have them sharpened or whatever, then he can. But let's go ahead and slap this back in there, and then we got to change the oil in this thing and start bolting a bunch of stuff back together and see where we're at. So let's go ahead and put this thing back together. All right, we're back down here on the ground, and to note, this is your keyway. We got to line it up, and right here is a little notch out that lines up too. So if you go up here and look, you've got a keyway, you got to match your keyway, and then you got to put your little pin in there that keeps that from rotating back and forth. So you got to line both of those up, and it can be a little bit tricky, but I'll show you how. So what you want to do is get your PTO, get it, spin the inside of it here, spin this with your finger to get this lined up pretty close. So you want to get it on there, and it is hard to get on there. You gotta get it just right. Hold on. Alright, so I got it slid on there, and I'm going to match up this other side and get it locked in. So now it's locked in there. We got to get our bolt wherever I put it, and get our bolt up in there and get it started. So I want to get it up in there to the point this thing isn't going to fall down off of that pin. So there, we got it up in there now. I'm going to go ahead and put impact on her and tighten her down. That's good to go. So if you look on this side, our pin is lined up. We got it back on there. We got our bolt in, and we are good to go. Now we got to take our wire, and on this model it runs up through this hole back here that is, this thing is just caked in oil and grease and everything, grass. And you pull it up, and it comes out the top up here, and you just pull your excess wire, and that's all it does, is just sit in there like that. So now I've got to jack the deck back up and put our rod and all that good stuff back on the front, and then we can go ahead and change the oil in this thing and start bolting a bunch of the other stuff back together and see where we're at. All right, so got our oil pan set up, and usually these are the push connect style on these, or the push drain oil I should say, but I'm assuming somebody changed it, which that's no big deal. We're just going to take a 12 millimeter and put it on the bottom of our plug, and that's how our oil will come out. So I'm going to pop that loose, maybe. Man, that thing's tight. I still have to address an issue. This motor, if you can see, that motor is not attached. So we got to get underneath it again. I didn't realize that it was loose, but that motor is very loose. So either it's missing a bolt's broke off, or it's just backed out. I'm not sure, but it's definitely loose. So let's get the oil drained out of it, and then we're going to look at that and see what the heck is going on. Hopefully I don't make a humongous mess. I think I got this lined up. We'll find out, I guess. Oh, of course, I missed the whole drain pan. Hang on, get back in there. Come on. Alright, so that didn't work out. Okay, so I gotta have my hands free for this. I'm gonna use my funnel and stuff I got here. I might not need the hose, just to direct the oil where it needs to go instead of where it went. Let's see. Yeah, it's better. So that stuff has definitely been a while since she's been changed. I'll go ahead and pop this filter loose. Take my band wrench. Holy smokes, what they do put that thing on there with impact? My goodness. So that's a factory filter. I hope that it's been changed. It may never have been changed. Boy, that thing is nasty. Goodness. I don't think he's changed it. in a very, very long time, if ever. So I got a little bowl and a flat knife here. I'm gonna just kind of rake this stuff into it. That's a lot of grass and oil and just about everything. Wow, that's bad. Willing to bet that this thing's probably never had a fuel filter, because I know the air filter ain't never been changed. I mean, look at that. Ugh. Yuck. So I'm gonna grab, I don't have any brake clean, but I got some carbon choke cleaner. I'm just gonna hose that down and clean it. I mean, there's even chunks of nastiness in the oil off of that plug. Man, I don't think he does a lot of maintenance on it. He must just get on her and go. Somebody Teflon taped that plug. Goodness. Alright. Let me go grab some cleaner here. I want to clean that off. This thing really needs a good pressure wash. But he don't want that. He just wanted it fixed up to mow. So got our carbon choke cleaner. I'm just gonna hose all this down. That's bad. Man, there's big old chunks inside that filter housing. I'll have to let that dry off real well before I put a filter back on it. I might actually have to go get the air hose and blow through it, because that's pretty freaking bad. Really don't see how it was circulating the oil, because I mean, I blew chunks out of that. I don't know if you can see it on video, but I blew chunks out of that thing that was like bigger than a freaking end of a pencil lead, like the thick part. It's bad. That tells me this motor's got a lot of gunk in it. Okay, so I went through and I cleaned all that out and made one hell of a mess of my shop floor, but I blew a little bit of air through the dipstick tube on this thing, and I had all kinds of crap come out of that motor. That oil filter hole was actually clogged shut, so I don't think it was circulating any oil. So yeah, anyways, I got that cleaned up. Now I've got a hell of a mess to clean up, but let's go ahead. We'll put our plug back in this thing. We'll go ahead and tighten this up. Get our new oil and filter here. He didn't want to spend much money, so he's going to get a good old Super Tech from Walmart. And some Havleen 10W40. This thing says it takes two quarts, so we'll see. I'm going to put just a little in the filter. Can't put much because it, you know, it goes on sideways, but a little bit. And I'm going to, of course, get some on my finger here. And we're going to lube this gasket up really well. Make sure that gasket's pushed in there all the way. Looks like it is. Lube it up. We're going to stick her on there. My hand's slipping on it quite a bit. I'm just going to grab our filter wrench and just give it a good snug. Not hard, just snug. That way I ain't going to worry about it leaking. But there we go. Got our oil changed. Well, got it emptied. Now we got to put some oil in it. So now we're going to go ahead and put our oil in it. Our filter or our funnel cleaned, wiped off. So I'm just going to take and dump our new oil in. Okay guys, so I got this thing lifted way up in the air. I don't know if you can see it, but right there, it's missing a bolt. And right there, it's missing another bolt. That bolt is there, and that bolt back there is there. But it's missing both bolts off of this side of the engine completely. I mean, it looks like the threads are good, but the bolts are completely gone. I've never seen that happen before. I wonder if, I mean, the threads on that look kind of nasty. I wonder if somebody had this engine off. I'm not really sure what's going on. I have never seen that before. I think these are 3/8 maybe. I think is what they are. I've got some bolts, so we're gonna see if I can't get two bolts back in this side of the engine. I don't know why they would be off or out or what caused it, but yeah, he's definitely missing two bolts. So that would be why the engine lifts up on that side. That can cause tons of issues. So let's see if I can find a bolt. All right, so went through and I found some bolts with some lock washers, and I'm gonna put a little bit of the thread locker on it, the hot lock, to hopefully keep them from coming out. The bolts go in, the threads feel fine, so let's go ahead and throw some of this hot lock on it and see if we can't get them back up in there. I guess they just backed out, or somebody forgot to put them in. I really don't know. I've never seen that, but let's go ahead and see if we can get it back together here. I'm gonna start with this back one first. I know it's hard to see because it's dark. You can see it right there, hopefully. I'll try to reach up in there after I put the hot lock on it here. Put some on her. And just get it started by hand. It's in a very awkward position. It's in there, but it's really not in there all the way. It's really hard to get that one. The front one goes in really easy. This back one, it's shifted a little bit, I do believe. Which I could understand. There we go. Now she's almost all the way in there. Take my extension and make sure it does tighten up. Yeah. So that's just by hand and it's tight. So let's go ahead and put the front one in. And it's a little harder to see, but it's easier to get to. It's right up here. Right here. So same deal. I'm gonna put some hot lock on it. If I can get this light to cooperate. And this stuff, this hot lock, it works great for anything that has high temperatures on it, but you can get it back out. It's not like it's gonna be, you know, permanent. If you had to bust them loose, you can bust them loose. So don't worry if you think, oh, he's putting them in there and nobody will ever get them back out. Yeah, you'll get them back out. So got them in there. Now let's go ahead and throw the impact on it and give them a good bump to tighten them down. Try to start with this front one. Very hard to see what I'm doing. So there's that one. She tightened right up. So let's hope the same for this one. And that one tightened right up. Well, since I'm here, I'm gonna go ahead and hit these other ones. I know it's gonna be hard for you guys to see, so I'm just gonna kind of leave you over here, I guess, because you ain't gonna be able to see what I got going on this side. So, oh yeah, she's loose. That one was loose. Is this one loose? They were all, that rear one was loose. The front one was kind of tight, but still loose. And this side was missing both. So, really don't know what the heck was going on with that. But it's fixed now, and hopefully it stays that way. So now we can go ahead and move on to plugging the PTO in and putting our new switch and all that stuff in. So we get back up on top here. I got to start putting this motor back together because I had to take the cover off because, like I said, I'm assuming the PTO switch caused something to short the ground, and when it did, it fried the coil on this thing. So we gotta put everything back together where I replaced the coil, and hopefully our blades will be here tomorrow. And I ran out of grease. I was gonna grease everything for him. I ran out of grease. I ordered some grease, and lo and behold, FedEx lost it in the mail. So it's reordered, but I don't think it'll be here till Tuesday, so I don't think you'll get to see me grease it, but you might. I'm gonna go over everything on this thing. I'm gonna air the tires up, grease everything. We changed the oil. It really needs an air filter. It really needs a fuel filter. I'm gonna see if he wants to splurge on it, but if he don't, he don't. He might want to just do that stuff himself because, like I said, this is he's paying me to do this stuff, and the more I do, the more it costs. So the main thing is we got the PTO on, and we fixed the bolts that were, I don't know what was going on there, but I'm gonna get back topside and probably lower this thing down a little bit so we can work on it. But got to put all the bolts back in basically, and put the new PTO switch in it, and see what happens, I guess. I'm not going to start it up or anything yet. I'm just going to see if we get any kind of clicking sounds out of the PTO. Hopefully it'll do it without being running. Most of them do. So we'll find out. I just want to notate for everybody and for him that this cover, I had to take it off, and it was missing several bolts that I did not lose. They were gone already. So it's got one bolt back here, it's got one bolt up front, and then your bolts that hold your fuel line and your wiring on the other side. That was the only bolts in it, so it's missing 3 bolts. All right, that's tight. All that is dust cover. The next thing I got to do is I got to put his air filter back in it. And his air filter is bad. That is the air filter. So she's in pretty bad shape. I might try to go ahead and just, you're not supposed to, but I'm going to blow it out for him with some air. 2003 was when that filter was put in. So yeah, I'd say it needs one. I'm gonna blow it off for him. Yeah, that's a little better than what it was. So we'll put that back in for him. So goes like that. Pushes in. This comes down and like that. So there's that part done. Now let's go ahead and do this PTO switch right here. And the reason I'm replacing it is if you look at it very closely, you see this very first pin right here? See how it's melted at the bottom? See how it's kind of out, kind of weird looking, like it's almost out of place compared to the rest of them? That means that, and that's a ground, and that means that something was causing that to get really hot. And if you look at it this way, you can see it. It was gotten really hot at some point. Usually what causes that is the PTO itself going bad. That's why I opted to go ahead and put a new one in it. Usually what happens is they're a magnet, and if it takes a super lot of power to turn on and off that magnet, then it will cause a extreme power draw. And I'm pretty sure that is what happened here, because that switch got really hot and it melted. So here's our new one in this box, the box here, and hopefully it is identical, because there's two different styles. And it's the right one. Some of them, what it is your pins are reversed, but this is the right one. So let's go ahead and pop it back in and hook it up. So on these, all it is a connector. There's your connector. It can only go one way. They line up just like this, and you push it on. To get it back into here, it just pushes in. You just squeeze your tabs to pull it out, and all you got to do is push it back in the same way. So I'm going to make sure I got it the right way, and it goes like this. So we're just going to push it back into its home and put our connector on just like this, and we're done. PTO replaced, PTO switch replaced, engine is bolted back down. I replaced the magneto or coil, whatever you want to call it. So I was going to show you, this is the other style, and see, I bent that pin out of the way to try to see if I could make this switch work, but it doesn't. And it's been hot too. If you look, that one pin's been melted. But this is the other style, and this part isn't used on this mower. It's just a different harness. This is a little bit older style before they switched to this style. But anyways, let's see if we got anything when we, oh yeah, there's our PTO. So the switch was definitely bad, and probably the PTO also. So there you go, guys. That is how you fix a PTO problem on just about any make, model, size that has the electronic PTO. And that's what you'll hear, a good old audible click. What that means is that's engaging the PTO. So after going through tons and tons of problems with this thing, and trying to figure out the short to ground and all that stuff, I'm pretty sure it was the switch, because now everything's working like it's supposed to, even though I ended up frying a coil. Don't really know how that happened, except for the fact that I was testing that switch, and I don't know. I really don't know how that happened. That's a first for me, for something to back feed through like that and fry the coil. And I've been doing this stuff for, I don't know, since I was a kid. And my birthday is Monday, and I'll be 38 years old. Happy birthday to me. So anyways, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up a little bit and wait on these blades to come in tomorrow, and we'll get them blades put on and button this thing up, and we're gonna take it out here and see if she'll mow. So we'll see you tomorrow, guys. All right, guys, so got our new blades in. I got the mower completely up in the air so we can get to these blades. So let's go ahead and swap these out. I think it's a 16. It is. So we're just gonna start in the middle, work our way around. So impact. There's that one. Now, remember which way these things come off, because they go on a certain way, otherwise you'll have issues. So they come off this part here that bows upwards goes to the top. So just remember that if you change blades, put them back on the right way. I have seen people put the blades on backwards. So these aren't terrible, but I figured they've got a lot of deep nicks in them. We'll just go ahead and throw a new set on it. So bowed part goes to the top. Line up your notches. There we go. I know you probably can't see anything with my big head in there. Get some light in here. So I'm going to tighten it up some by hand here until we get this thing to actually lock in where it's supposed to. There we go. So she's locked in there. Now we're just going to take our impact and run it up on there just like that. So got that one done. Let's go ahead and move over here to this one. That one's changed. Now tighten her down. All right. All new blades put on. They should be good to go. Make sure nothing hits. Rotate it. It looks like we are good. New blades are installed. Okay guys, so we pretty much got her done. I did replace one of the battery terminals on it, and I bolted down the solenoid and cleaned up his battery connections because they were pretty bad. And of course none of the boots were on there anymore, so I put the boots back on it. So in all, we replaced the PTO, the PTO switch. I had to put a new coil on it because that coil got fried. We put 3 brand new blades on it. We changed the oil in it, and I'm going to check his air pressure and his tires. And then I'm going to take it out here and just do a little test run with it, make sure everything seems all right, and take it back to him. Stay tuned guys, and like always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.